Hey there, welcome back to Black Queer Canon. I'm Mikelle.
And I'm Tre'vell, and we here have been putting together, this canon of Black LGBTQ characters.
Yes, every episode in this inaugural season, we're building out our very own canon of film and television characters that have paved the way when it comes to Black, queer, and trans narratives on screen. And along the way, we'll be joined by folks with a special connection to these characters who will help tease it all out. In our first two episodes, we placed Cleo and Noah into our canon. Tre'vell, tell folks about who is joining the canon this week.
Okay, let me give a disclaimer before I start, okay? Because, up to this point, we have put two characters that happen to be played by queer people into the canon. These peoples, that's what I will call them, that we are adding to the canon today, were not played by currently known queer people, because life is a journey. And the two characters come from an In Living Color sketch called Men on Film. We are talking about Blaine Edwards and Antoine Merriweather, played by Damon Wayans and David Allen Grier. I know you've seen the, two snaps in the formation. They're these high femme, stereotypically effeminate characters who give these different takes on culture, and Men on Film was one of the most recurring and I would say popular sketches. And I think one of the reasons we put these two characters in this canon is because of how referential this sketch has become. I feel like everybody know snap Z formation, two and the whoop whoop whoop,
Yeah.
And I think that level, when we're talking about characters that have impacted culture, our culture, in a particular way, and the ways that we as LGBTQ folks are kind of treated and regarded in our community, these two characters are high up on that list of influence.
For sure. I mean, I cannot remember if I saw it from them or if I saw it somewhere else. I always knew the hated it like that. That has always been in my head for such a long time. But I'm not sure if it was like I saw a clip of them or I saw someone else doing it and then that person was just mocking them. But yeah, I think that like sort of, how pervasive it was, particularly with I didn't even know this until we were, working on this project, that, there was like a whole Super Bowl connection with sort of the 1992, CBS or Fox doing a competing broadcast and this being a part of it. And so it was super pervasive at a time when representation was all but non-existent for Black, queer, and trans characters.
And another character I want to uplift in this moment, we're not placing this character on the list, but I think this character is in conversation in some ways with Blaine and Antoine, and that is the character of Leroy in Fame. Now, everybody seemed to remember Leroy as a homosexual.
Right.
And part of that, I think, is because we now know that the actor who played Leroy, Gene Anthony Ray, was gay. But that is a textually heterosexual person, both in the movie as well as in the series. And I just want to throw that out there for the people who are like, well, where Leroy at?
Right.
Well, that's why he ain't here, because he's straight, despite how... Now, I will note, there are some scenes with Leroy where you're like, that is a homosexual storming out.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I ain't no straight man I know. Okay? But I just wanted to throw that character out there because I think they're in conversation with this archetype of, there's this like obviously queerness, visualness. There's this stereotypical kind of sassy attitude. I'm gonna hold you to account and tell you like a TI is. I feel like you have to do the neck movement when you do it. But I feel like there's similar things happening with both of those. And I think the reason why folks think of Leroy, right, and maybe don't think of the impact of Men on Film, of the two Men on Film, is because of, what we know to be some distancing, right, that actors sometimes do from some of the characters that they play, that I think we know, and at least I've seen in various reporting, has happened with Damon and David Allen Grier that didn't necessarily, I think, happen with Gene and Leroy.
The mannerisms you were talking about, I mean, the only thing I can say, and I don't know if we should say this, but
well, don't say it. We here now.
But it is the sissy, right? Like that is the
Absolutely.
caricature, which we have seen for years, even before this, right? You think of, what's that character's name? Lindy in Car.
Sure, yeah.
So,
in Car Wash.
Yeah, in Car Wash. So I think that there's this, which all of these characters, right, come with this discourse, as we call it today, around, is it good for the community? Is it bad for the community? Et cetera, et cetera. When in reality, you just want to say, well, that's how some of us are, but
and I think that's the thing, right? I feel like this is something that folks often repeat now in relation to trans visibility, but it's that, like, it's not a problem that this is a representation of the community. It becomes a problem when it's one of the only,
correct,
representations of the community. Because yes, some of us are too, we gonna get you together,
right?
Okay, but others, are different,
right? I don't know those people, but some of them
but
are.
they exist. I've seen them. One of the things I wanted to bring up in discussing, and I kind of hinted at this already, but there's this like recurring conversation about, straight people playing gay, and how do you convey, whether it's authenticity, how do you, David Allen Grier has said that, his characterizations were based on gay people that he knew back from, the theater days and whatnot. And I'm sure that is true.
Right.
I'm sure that is true. And also, this is Hollywood and this is entertainment. So I'm also sure there is some dressing up, right, for entertainment purposes. You want to overblow it in that way. But it does end up becoming this like prevailing stereotype that some people find harmful or limiting or, otherwise problematic.
Right. I mean, it's mostly the people who don't identify, you know what I mean? It's people who are like, well, I identify as gay. I don't identify as that character. But no, I think that what you're saying is super true around there can be a chasm between the inspiration and then how that shows up on screen, right? Which is, okay, I wrote this thing. I was inspired by my friend. I wrote it this way. Well, then after I write it, then the director comes in and, then they put their little thing on it. And then the actor comes in and they put their little thing on, and by the time that it gets to, screen, it is so far removed from those inspirations that, now it has become a trope. Now it has become the sort of the stereotype, which I think is real, particularly when you think about it in comedy, right? All of comedy is about exaggeration when you think about it. And so, that queerness or these feminine eccentricities would be exaggerated is par for the course for comedy. Whether that's harmful or not is obviously something that people have differing opinions on, but not very surprising.
But the impact nonetheless,
correct,
right? Regardless of, or maybe not regardless of how you come down on whether it's harmful or not, there is something, the survey that we did for, helping to figure out who to put on this list. I think one thing that was interesting is this entry ranked kind of low on people's identification, but I know that in talking to people in like an everyday way, they're very much so like, oh yeah, like that was something I remember seeing, and I do remember being, referenced in that particular way.
And the other thing, when we were talking about, even doing the survey and the results that we got, and then the names that we ended up with, I think that there's a difference between what we view ourselves as formative characters for ourselves, and what, how you say, John Q. Public, as you love to say, how they view and, their first experiences,
Mhm.
right? And so, we might see a Noah and might only think about these specific characters that are probably more fleshed out.
Mhm.
But those characters don't always make it to the public in as mass ways
Yeah.
as this one did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, these two did.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, let's take a quick little break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by writer, director, award winner, all of the things, Justin Simien.
Welcome back to Black Queer Canon. Joining us to break down all things men on film is Justin Simien.
Thank you for joining us, Justin.
Thanks for having me. I just read your shirt.
Is well, yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah.
These are the important. Listen, if your mind, your body, and your whole are not in alignment,
okay.
Important.
Hate that for you.
Okay. Yeah. There are better ways to live, I gotta say.
You're a mess. This is going to be a great conversation, okay? To get us started, Justin, I want to ask you about like your earliest recollection or your earliest time seeing the Men on Film sketch on In Living Color.
Hated it. I mean, it was like I grew up with it. I couldn't tell you the first time. Like I just remember being a kid, and I believe it was Thursdays, you watched The Simpsons, you watched Living Color, and it was always there. Like it was literally always there. I think it was probably like the first time, like what gay was was crystallized for me was probably through this skit and how my family reacted to it.
If your family was anything like mine, it wasn't necessarily the positive reaction.
No,
not to put anybody's family out there. But it wasn't
yeah.
necessarily the most positive. What about for you, Mikelle?
Yeah, so we couldn't. We didn't watch.
Y'all didn't watch.
We didn't watch these things. I mean, like I said, I remember the hated it, but I can't remember if I saw it from one of their clips or if I saw it because somebody else said it and like it's just
replicated.
Yeah, like sort of in reference to it. So I'm not exactly sure, but I do remember watching the clips on YouTube when I was in college, and being like obsessed with them. And then I feel like there was like a Tumblr thing at that point.
Shout out to Tumblr.
Yes,
and
the
stuff like that.
generation. I watched it via broadcast.
Yeah, and you watched it live.
Yeah, live. And it was so funny because like they have this. It has this weird appeal because before I knew that what I was also called gay. You can tell they're objects of ridicule. I mean, they're absolutely ridiculous, and I believe the way they're like grading the movies is like very specific to their gay caricature, but yet they were also like kind of fat, like they kind of ate, like they were fabulous.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, there was like something about them that was aspirational, even while like I could tell by the laughter in the room that we were all supposed to like make fun of them. And at the same, you know what else I was remembering? This is like slightly off topic, but maybe I don't. Okay, is also the Living Color sketch about like when Black or White came out, the Michael Jackson video, and this is before any of the other controversies. They were just making fun of Michael's femininity and his like gender fluidity, let's say. And I just remember as a kid being so confused by this messaging because I adored Michael Jackson and there was no like cognitive dissonance about it until I got older and I was like, oh, like Black people are making fun of him. And they're also making fun of this other thing that like, I don't know what that is, but there's something about it I want to find out more, Interesting.
What you're talking about, right, is I think, these ways that we sometimes have complex, feelings and relationships to some of these characters where it's like, it is part aspirational because it's like, oh, actually, there's a fabulousness here.
Right.
There's something that I actually do want to emulate a little bit. Like, you mean I could look like that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they're the actors are enjoying it.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing about like Black comedy and
Oh,
like,
let's dive in. Yeah.
yeah, and just the cognitive dissonance around gay is so weird. I mean, it is like one of these ways in which Black people, we keep policing ourselves. Like the homophobia is definitely like the language of our oppressors, and yet it is the one that we as a community really struggle to let go of. And so the need to integrate like queerness into Black culture happens in the weirdest fucking ways. And one of the ways is like these renowned, you know, it's okay, everybody, I'm straight and I have a beautiful wife and all these children, drag queens, you know what I'm saying? Who are like hugely famous because of their female. I mean, this starts with like Flip Wilson in the 70s. And it's like, I mean, it doesn't start there, of course, but that's like
notable moment.
That was a moment where it's like, okay, this is an okay form of Black comedy on television, and so that sense of joy in it, which is forbidden, and not, you know, no one will ever admit to that part, but it's like, obviously Jamie Foxx enjoyed playing Wanda. Obviously, like, you know what I'm saying?
Obviously.
Like, obviously y'all enjoy it too. It's like, I saw something on TikTok the other day and it was wild, but it was like, Black people treat gay people the way the rest of the world treats Black people, and that shit is so true.
Yeah,
because
I saw that TikTok
if
as well.
if you go all the way down to like blackface and shit, like white people enjoy.
They got a good kick out of it.
I mean, it wasn't just to degrade.
Okay,
they enjoyed it. It was like feeding something in them, and you kind of see this in these characters. I mean, I'm not talking about the actors per se, but I'm just saying in general.
We've been reminding the people that we're talking about the characters.
Yes, exactly.
Not the actor.
There is a celebration because they own their ideas. They are not scared of nobody. They like no one else's opinions matter. They are creating their own fucking reality. And that part, you can feel is being celebrated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, you know, we put it in the canon because of how much we feel like it's been like reproduced in culture, and how many of our earliest traumas can be traced to people's reactions to like this character, the comedy of it all, the ways that we, as you were just talking about, as like Black queer folks, you know, find ourselves navigating through those spaces. And also we recognize that it is at least complex portrayal. How do you see these two characters specifically, but many, you know, Black queer characters, I feel like of the 90s era fitting into this like conversation around visibility and what it means to like see ourselves represented?
I mean, you know, oh man, this is a deep one for me. I know people think of it as problematic, and it is, and we should never like forget the layers, for sure, right? But at the same time, this is the way culture works, is that the first instances of something in a culture, it's never going to be pure. It's never going to be unproblematic. I think like I think as a Black gay filmmaker right now, today, I cannot make pure things. You know what I'm saying? Like everything has to sort of be couched in what's allowed to be said aloud at this time. And those characters, as you know, maybe problematic as they would be today, they are a bit of a stepping stone, because like just while you were talking, I was imagining like I would love a present day Damon on film that was just like unironic, was just like, this is who these fabulous queens are, and they are like giving me a very specific perspective on film. Like that is something I think people are a little bit more ready for because of those characters, which by themselves, of course, very problematic, but you know we were like, I was a kid when this was on, but I feel like if I were my age in the 90s, we'd be getting a little bit of a key out of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It would be, it's just nice to see yourself sometimes, even if that's not exactly you and there are problems, but it's
like
just nice that
it's of you.
Yeah, because they were actually like serving. They were actually like giving like really solid reads. Like they were, it was an example of gay culture.
It was.
Definitely through a filter, but it was there, and you couldn't deny it. And you couldn't deny that these men were funny. So
they were funny.
It opens like a crickety crack, you know.
Yeah.
No, it was. when you were saying that, I was like, it would be so funny to watch them do it on Drag Race or Snatch Game.
Yeah.
Like, it would be such a good Snatch
Oh
Game
my
character.
It would be a great Snatch Game.
That would be a brilliant Snatch Game.
Oh, they got to get more black folks on the show.
Well,
you know, a certain kind of black folks.
That
you know what I mean? Who know that comedy.
Right.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
young, man. They young. They don't even be knowing like who Rosa Parks is and stuff. Like, woo, the Snatch Games. But that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be so good. Now, another character that we've been talking about in relation to these two is the character of Leroy on Fame.
Yes.
Which it is not in our canon only because the character technically is heterosexual.
Technically, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But we have already talked about how, you know, there are storm out scenes where you're like, that.
Listen.
Okay.
Listen.
Is one of us.
When he throws the chair, first of all, the audition scene. Okay.
Here, the beginning. Yes.
When he shows up, like, trade, and then when it's time to go, okay, the shorts get hiked up, and we just start doing all kind of things that make Debbie Allen uncomfortable. I live for Leroy and couldn't, and the crazy thing is, like, when I was watching Fame, I was going to a performing arts high school in Houston, Texas, okay?
Wow.
Where DL comes, I feel like the DL capital of the freaking world. And so I never for a second believed that he was straight. I never even like considered the narrative framework of the film or TV show to be accurate or to be more accurate than my eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the idea of a black gay dancer who also had girlfriends was not new to me at all. It was not strange to me.
Accurate.
It was like, yeah, right. But
That makes sense.
I saw that pot of beret. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. That is a homicide. I live that y'all put Leroy in. That's both like shady and brilliant.
Well, right there, right there, not in it, but like right under,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people think of that character as this like early black gay representation, but I rewatched it recently,
Yes,
and I said, huh?
Yeah, he hooks up the little ballerina.
He sure
Coco
does.
has a thing for him or whatever.
He's hot to trot. Don't get me wrong. Nonetheless, okay, no matter who's
the
interested,
teachers are out here.
everybody's trying to get a piece.
Okay, well, does she have like a lollipop in the audition or something? Somebody has.
It was a lot going on. It was a lot going on. But then I was like, oh, but he's straight. He's just got a little sass to him. And we, obviously to mention again, Gene Anthony Ray, who played that character, was a gay man.
Yes, as
right.
was very evident
in
the footage of him playing Leroy.
And you could see it.
Yeah, you can't hide it. I mean, that's what it is. It's like whatever I think, and I feel the same way about Men on Film. Whatever the like surface explanation of this person being in front of me is, that is a gay man. That is gay, and it's not just gay. It's gay blackness. Yeah. Just out here being vibrant and exciting and electric, and it's undeniably tied to this person's queerness, this person's queer identity. It's like you can't put that genie back in the bottle, even if you give him a little white girlfriend, and even if like the Men on Film characters are actually like kind of like buffoonish or whatever. Like you can't put it's there. It's there. We're enjoying the thing.
It's there. Are there any other characters that come to mind for you from that, early period? I would consider early period for black, gay, black, queer representation that you think are important.
It was sparse, okay, in those
exactly.
days. It's quite
exactly.
Sparse. You know who immediately comes to mind is Urkel, though.
Oh, plot twist.
I know. Okay. There's nothing about him, at least in terms of the narrative, that is overtly gay. But when I was, because I'm a nerd, I was like chubby. I was like thought of as like kind of asexual in my friend groups and stuff. I was not a part of the sexual hierarchy, as RuPaul calls it. And he was the one I would kind of reach for as most like me. And especially the way Jaleel plays the character. She's serving something. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not cunt. It's something else. But it's definitely being served. He's not just a nerd. He dances a lot. He has his own fashion sense. He kind of like, there's like a this to him. I don't know.
I see it.
Yeah, and he didn't quite fit in with the other black boys. You know what I'm saying? He was very different than the other black boys. And it was not just because he was book smart, because he was extroverted too. That's what it was. Urkel was an extrovert. And it was like, he was putting that weirdness out there. He didn't have any self, like, I mean, I guess he had insecurities and stuff, but like, because of the whole, what was it?
Stefan, yeah.
Lord have mercy. Yeah, his trade persona, Stefan Urkel.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, there was something being communicated to me.
You were picking up something.
I was picking up a
We don't know if they were putting it down, but you were picking it up.
I feel like somebody in that writer's room was like, I don't know. It just felt too true.
I'm not gonna lie, didn't expect you to say
yeah.
Urkel.
I went there.
I appreciate that though.
And there was costumes and there was dancing. I don't know.
There is an otherness.
Yes.
Right, in that character.
Yes, the charactress.
You know. And there is you mentioned like kind of the way, the body, you know, how that character, you know, how Jaleel played that character physically, that I think I could see, you know, a little queer swish down river, you know, very fanfic oriented.
And listen, I'm not talking about anybody or any actors, anyone's intentions. I'm just saying, if I met that person in real life, I'd be like, that's a gay man.
You'll be like, at least that somebody's safe. And somebody's safe. That's how I would think of it.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, somebody's safe.
You know, somebody who I can, you might not subscribe how I subscribe.
Right, yes. The actual labels might be a little slightly askew, but there's something queer about that person. And then I think about like, RuPaul was kind of everywhere. Like I remember like RuPaul and like Men on, like that was kind of it. It was a very like sparse
one or the
landscape.
other.
Yeah. And until I saw Watermelon Woman, I technically did see this movie in the 90s, where Cheryl Dunye is playing like a version of herself, you know, lesbian filmmaker. I remember seeing that on cable and just like kind of being blown away that, oh my God, there's like adults out here who are like gay. They're just gay. And it's just matter of fact. And they're looking for themselves in a past I never imagined we were in before. That was like, and that's towards the end of the 90s, but that was like that one kind of like floored me for a while when I saw that.
Yeah. I love that you invoked the name of Cheryl Dunye. We love her.
Listen,
okay. Give the icon her flowers at all times.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about Steve Urkel, it also got me thinking about
back to the more overtly queer characters of Steve Urkel.
Well, you know, it applies to men on film as well, but it's about, we were talking about before about the role of comedy specifically when it comes to some of the representations that we get or that we remember most about, you know, our community. It's I feel like it's often through a comedy lens.
Yes.
Because that allows some sort of joy, some sort of levity also, you know, in the experience versus, you know, whether it's a dramatic portrayal or something, it's usually focused on our traumas.
Yes.
You know, in that capacity. But comedy ends up being a really interesting like conduit for some of these representations, despite our complex feelings about them.
And it's really one of our oldest art forms in this country. I mean, you know, look, let me get on my TED Talk box.
Don't do it.
Heck yeah, I'm gonna do it. You know, minstrelsy is the first. I'm sorry, I have to do it. Minstrelsy is the first popular culture in America, right? And minstrelsy is white people making fun of black people. But how we got into it is we started to do minstrelsy ourselves, take over some of these roles, and right at the beginning, like you see us playing women, you see us like embracing all of the things that white people find taboo about black people. And again, like, white people are like taking their cues from the black folks they're finding in Harlem. This is a very, very queer, coded, gay, dense population of black sophisticates in Harlem, all in the, you know, beginning of the last century, but particularly in the 20s when some of these traditions have come out. So this idea of a black man playing a woman, both as an object of ridicule, but also as like a space where this man can be kind of free in a way. By the time that's Flip Wilson on national TV, that had already been a kind of tradition.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like whether it was in the vaudeville tradition or the Chitlin circuit or whatever, Black men comics, like that had been a part of their repertoire for a while. And
certainly.
And it's funny because like queer people don't go anywhere. Like even if you don't give us a name or give us a place of society, we find ourselves in like the gospel church or the church creating gospel music, or you find us like in comedy, kind of like introducing straight people to drag, and it happens whether we want it to or not. So it is no surprise that like some of the first instances show up in comedy, because that's just like that's kind of always been our medicine, to either self-medicate but also to find our own lane inside of popular culture, make them laugh first. And then they let you stay, and then you can, be an artist or something maybe down the line. It's also why my first movie is a comedy, and why like when I'm trying to tackle something big, my mind goes to the comedic side of it first, or to the genre side of it, because like I don't know. Life is hard. Like when we all got in here, and we're just like, ooh, 2025, y'all.
It's been a lot. Okay?
Yeah, you have to laugh. I mean, you have to let some of that out. I think. Yeah.
This is something good there. Some good education for the people.
I be saying things.
You do every now and
again.
I want to ask though about the when you're thinking of Black LGBTQ or rather, are you thinking about Black LGBTQ plus representation when you are crafting your own work?
I am constantly thinking about it, and it is frustrating because I feel like I'm still having to kind of sneak my own queerness, gayness, whatever you want to call it, into my work. And all like, part of the thing about Dear White People is that it's really Lionel's story, but he is backgrounded, because I understood back in 2013 when I was making that movie that people would not accept a gay central male character unless the whole movie was about the tragedy of him being gay. And so what you see is this like, okay, Sam seems like she's the leader of this group of Black kids, and this Black kid is kind of afraid of Black people because he's gay and he doesn't know how to integrate those things yet. But then he becomes the radical by the end of that movie. And it always has to be Trojan horse like that, Every time I've tried to make a project where a gay Black character is the lead, and whether or not that's the point of the story or not, it hasn't gotten made yet. It doesn't get greenlit. I don't get the coins to make it. So it's usually, what people are more interested in hearing from Black gay writers and directors are stories about women, frankly. And so, which is fine, but it is, you kind of have to sneak it in there. You have to sort of use the available avatars. I find it very frustrating. So I'm always thinking about it, and I'm always like pretty disappointed at where we are. I think we're still in a place where like it's just only acceptable if like white straight men are doing it. That's the only way we can accept gayness, apparently, in society. Even, everyone's going crazy over White Lotus, and Sam Rockwell's like, wanting to be an Asian woman. Great monologue, live for Mike White, all of that. But it's wild how like he's the only kind of guy anyone will accept that storyline from. It's frustrating. Yeah. And live for Pose, but like, can we have 2 or 3 at the same time? Like, can we have Drag Race and other? You know what I mean? Like, it's we drive the culture. That's all. So it'd be nice.
We do drive the culture, and so just to bring it back to Men on Film, even though that is my favorite word this entire podcast journey has been complex character. It is also something that is a North Star of sorts, whether on a personal level, and then also perhaps as an example of what not to do, or where to push beyond, as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm still waiting for the day we get just like basic parody. That would be nice. Or like when I don't know. I struggle because I'm kind of like I love what Hacks did, because Hacks is one of the gayest shows ever. But it doesn't tell you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it doesn't tell you that right away.
Absolutely.
It's like, no, it's about these two people. And also, yeah, she's like kind of gay, but like it's about them. But then you realize like this, like Jean Smart is surrounded by gay people. Like everyone that works for her is gay. And so the show tends to be about their gay lives. And I think that, and that's not just a technique. I think it probably also reflects like just our taste as gay people or queer people. Like we don't necessarily want to watch something that is like just about being queer. Like we want something where being queer is like a part of the fabric of the thing we're watching, maybe. But yeah, it's a hard time right now to do something that people will deem as risky. But I don't. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like y'all all want to use the slang that gay people came up with, or frankly, gay Black people came up, or queer Black people, trans Black people, whatever. Black femmes came up with. Y'all want to wear the fashions. You want to listen to the music. You want to like literally like perform the culture. But the minute one of us is doing it, it's like it's forbidden.
Okay, now
it's frustrating.
it is deeply frustrating.
It is.
It is. It is.
Wait, are y'all putting in what's his face from Fifth Element? Chris Tucker? What was
No.
Oh,
because
what?
But she's very Leroy.
She is very Leroy. That character is very Leroy.
Come here. That is the gayest character in film history.
You know, you might be onto something.
Because baby,
you might be onto something.
I mean, pre-Lil Nas X, there's never been something so Black
Ruby
and
Road?
gay.
Is that the character?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
But I do think that character is
It's
very
Leroy. Because he's like hooking up with all the girls.
Textually,
he's hitting on them
he is
on camera. But the minute the camera turns off, honey, he is all about Bruce Willis and making sure Bruce is safe. And like, where are we? Is the bomb gonna go off? I saw what I saw in that film.
You did.
And I saw myself.
You did. We did. And we love that. We love that.
And I'm not a straight man.
Well, Justin, thanks so much for joining us. We're super grateful that you've given us some of your time.
I can't believe it's over already.
You know, we've been chatting.
We have been.
We've been chatting.
We've done some important things today. I really Ruby Red, Ruby Rose, Ruby Lee.
Just call Ruby.
Ruby D. I believe I'm going to advocate for her joining the canon.
We will take it under advisement.
Please,
and we'll see what we can do.
No, y'all have a commit. I get it, but
we'll see what we can do for you.
That's not heterosexual behavior at all. So just consider it. You know,
we will.
Okay,
we will. Special thanks again to our guest this week. Hope you tune in next week to Black Queer Canon, and be sure to subscribe to this here channel for more.